How you doing? Thank you so much for taking the time this morning. We spoke when your book came out. That was a little while ago.
2015.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't seem that long, but when you look at the numbers, yeah, a little while ago. But it doesn't compare to the over 50 years since Alice Cooper, the original band, has put out music, and I've been spending some time with the new one, The Revenge of Alice Cooper, and it's murderous reptiles and all night drug and alcohol binges and sex with aliens and over medicated psychos. So basically, it sounds like you picked up where you left off pretty naturally over 50 years
Yeah,
ago.
it's a continuation.
Yeah, yeah. And what was the catalyst behind this? I mean, half a century, a long time. I mean, what was it that brought you guys together again?
Well, it was step by step being inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2011, doing shows with Alice, benefits for the teen centers out in Phoenix, Arizona, that Alice and his wife Cheryl are a big part of. And then we recorded songs on Alice's last three solo albums. We did a book event in Dallas in 2015. This guy, Christopher Penn, had a record store there, good records to go. And I did a book signing, and then we got the original group to do a surprise performance right in the store, and that turned into a film and a recording mixed by Bob Ezrin. So all of these things added up, but the final thing is Neil and Michael and Alice getting together out in Phoenix and kicking around some songs for the fun of it. And then they got excited about some and said, okay, this is it. We're going to do an album.
It's really amazing listening to The Revenge of Alice Cooper, and if you're familiar with those first few Alice Cooper records, how different Alice, or are we calling him Vince since it's the band now, or do we still call him Alice?
I call him Alice.
Okay, so his voice is completely different, and it's very noticeable, and it's kind of like it's almost a little more laid back and creepier, if you will. Is that something like that you guys bring out in each other, and it's were you nervous about getting back together and wondering if that same chemistry could happen? I know you did it in bits and pieces
Well,
along the way, but recording a whole album.
yeah, well, Bob Ezrin had Michael, Neil, Alice, and I get together in a studio out in Phoenix to see if we could get it together. And we walked in, and there was no getting it together. It was together. So it was exactly the same. But I think as far as Alice singing differently, first of all, we revert to high school kids whenever we're together. That's one thing. And, we were pretty edgy back then in the 60s. But I think part of it is because we tune up to pitch. And Alice's touring band, which this is common, a lot of bands do this, they tune down a step so that Alice's voice can make it night after night without straining for the really high notes. So that's part of it. If you make him strain to hit those notes, then it sounds like we used to sound.
What and you went with Bob Ezrin again. You guys call him, what do you call him? The invisible member of the band.
We
Um,
call him, well, no, he's the fifth member of the band, but the sixth because we count Glen Buxton.
of course. Yeah.
He's a member of the band, really. I mean, Bob Ezrin's very first album was Love It to Death, and that was our third album. So we all learned the ropes together, and learned everything as we went. Uh, so having him on this, you not only knew you were going to have this enthusiastic guy that understood exactly how we work, which is everybody in the same room with a million ideas, and then Bob would allow that to go on. I don't think he had a choice. And but then if it starts to bog down because, you know, a debate gets too lengthy, then Bob's like, no, we're going to do it this way. Let's move forward. And that's what a producer does, because he had booked 10 days in the studio, Carriage House Studios in Connecticut, thinking we would get 5 songs out of it. And we ended up getting 12 songs out of it. We went in with 70 songs to choose from. And then we wrote 2 songs in the studio. So it was fast and furious. And when I walked out of there, I couldn't have even named all the songs that we had recorded. But
So
that
you had
spontaneity, that spontaneous energy is captured.
so you had 70 songs going in. Were these written for this, or were these collected over time?
All different things. Some of them were written long ago, and other ones in the interim. And then, like I say, we wrote 2 songs on the spot. The Glen Buxton song, I had a cassette from 1973 of Glenn and I jamming in the rehearsal room. He had this riff that I've always had this cassette thinking I'm going to finish this song someday. I didn't think it'd take this long, but Bob Ezrin cleaned it up, and right in the studio, we wrote a song that we thought Glenn would have liked. And Glenn's guitar recording is part of the song, and he gets a writer's credit. So, you know, it was very much following the creative energy wherever it led us, because it would be like, well, what do you want to do next? You know, and then somebody would say, well, I've got this idea. And then I would play the guitar part to show the guitar players, you know, and then I'd switch over to bass. And then as soon as everybody played it all the way through with the right feeling, then that was the recording. Done deal.
At any point when you got into the studio and you guys started clicking, were you thinking, hey, we're back? Doesn't mean it's over 50 years. And like, are you looking already? I mean, the album's great. So are you looking ahead now to maybe keeping this going with the original band?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I've always hoped that this would happen long ago, but there's a lot of mention of it because we still have so many great songs that didn't make it onto this album. You know, I think the record company, Ear Music, likes the sound of that we have enough songs for 5 albums. So we'll see. Alice has been mentioning it already, and Bob Ezrin has been mentioning it. So fingers crossed. I hope we get to go back in, because it's nothing but pure fun.
And then it's released on a bunch of different formats. It looks like you got a lot of tasty colored vinyl. There's a box set version, and there's an extra song that was recorded like 50 years ago that you guys found and included in here. And what's the history? Where does that song come from? What session are those from?
Yeah, well, someone ran across these recordings. They're outtakes. One is actually a recording that was on our very first album, Pretty's for You. This was Frank Zappa produced. And but it was instrumental. And we called it Titanic Overture because it's on this giant organ. And we imagined that's what the band was playing as the Titanic sank. And so and all of these years later, Bob and Alice went in the studio in 2024 out in LA, and Alice wrote the lyrics. As the lyrics are the Titanic speaking about what it felt like to be going down. And so I think Bob lengthened the song to accommodate a third verse. And so that's one of the tracks. It was originally recorded back in 1968. And
Oh,
then the
wow.
other song that's another bonus track is called Return of the Spiders. And it's a song that I wrote that as soon as we got Neil Smith into the band, we all knew him from this surf band that he was in. Well, he's in other great bands too in Phoenix, Arizona, but he played Wipeout really good. So we wrote this song about that to around that drum part. And for some reason, when we were in the studio for our second album, uh, somebody had gotten us to try recording that same song with a straight beat. And none of us remember recording that, but it's us. And it's from that one was recorded in, I think, 1970, maybe 69.
So was that let's see. No, no, you were Alice Cooper then. But the
Yeah.
Spiders, that was, I remember from your book, that's when you guys started with the whole stage show, right? You had the spider webs and you had some other stuff, the big production.
Oh,
That was the seed, the seed that grew the mighty oak, if you will.
we were the hot band at the hot club in Phoenix, Arizona, and the first song Alice and I ever wrote, "Don't Blow Your Mind," was number 11 on the radio. So we were a big deal in the Southwest. But it goes back earlier than that. We were still in high school in 1964 when we were able to play a full school dance, and it was a Halloween dance. And we had tombstones, spider webs, coffins, and a guillotine. That's the very first show we ever did.
Wow.
Played a whole night. Yeah,
What year was that again?
1964, Halloween.
Oh, wow. So the guillotine goes all the way back, way, way back,
Yeah, that
with the
particular
spiders.
one, a friend of ours, father was a carpenter, so we had asked him to get his father to build it for us. And that one wasn't full scale like the one that Alice is using these days on stage. It was more of just to look at. It wasn't really for anybody to put their head in. You know, it took a while for us to talk Alice into that.
You didn't use it to chop like like a cantaloupe or anything like that,
Yeah,
or
maybe like sliced cucumbers or something.
of all that stuff, was there anything that you were always that every time you would get stressed out when they brought it out, as far as the stage production and the effects go, whether it was the guillotine or Alice with the snake? Was there something that you're like, God, I wish you would quit doing this because it makes me really nervous?
Well, we had the amazing Randy, the great magician, who used to be on Johnny Carson's show all the time. Uh, but he worked with Warner Brothers props department. And so he would come every town that we would go to with the guillotine. Amazing Randy would go there to make sure, to inspect it, to make sure it was working properly. And, there were nights when things would go wrong, like the gallows. Uh, there was a night when Glen Buxton pulled the lever to hang Alice, and the trap door didn't open. So then Glenn and Alice and I are all stomping on the trap door to make it release. And then there was another night where actually the noose broke loose and Alice fell through. So there's always things like that. There's a lot of danger in the Alice Cooper group. Everybody's
Yes.
got their scars. People used to criticize our live cassettes, saying, "Oh, these guys make mistakes in their live shows." Yeah, well, we're being compared to a band that's not trying to do a solo while somebody's poking them in the eye with a sword.
Right. 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 That's amazing. So what are the plans now as far as live shows go?
Right now, the only thing that's etched into stone is Phoenix, Arizona on November 15th at the Phoenix Celebrity Theater. The original group will perform. And that theater in 1966, Alice and I were, when we were the Spiders and Glen Buxton, we were the Birdies in Bye Bye Birdie production there. It's 1966, and now we're going to be
Wow.
back there in November.
That's unbelievable. That's great. And I want to go back to Glenn Buxton a little bit. So you found this one cassette that had that guitar part on it. Is there any more that can potentially from Glenn that could potentially be made into new songs?
Yeah, with today's technology, there is because Glenn and I used to get together for late night jams all the time, in post original group breakup era. And there's a lot of stuff that you normally couldn't use, but with today's technology, you can tell the computer to go in and get rid of that drum track or get rid of the people that are talking while we're playing and clean it up. And there is a lot of stuff that we can potentially use further. Also, besides this recording that we wrote the song around with Glenn on it, What a Sid is a song that is about Glenn, and so is See You on the Other Side. Neil wrote this song right after he found out that Glenn had passed away, and then early on he showed it to me, and then I helped him finish it. But that one is definitely Glenn. So I'm very proud of how much Glenn's spirit is captured on this album because he's always there with all of us, whether we're in the studio or not. And the album goes along, and then all of a sudden, when it gets to a certain point, in my view, all of a sudden it gets to be more and more Glen Buxton, and it finishes with a bit of a tearjerker.
Yeah, yeah. How much truth is there in songs like "Up All Night" and "What Happened to You"? I mean, "Up All Night." Everybody. The great thing about music, everybody can interpret a song their own way, and they want to believe it's a certain way. And I don't like to ask specific questions about a song, but is that about a porn star? "Up All Night"?
Well, I think it's a little bit more tongue-in-cheek humor about Alice at his age bragging about being able to keep it up all night.
Oh, okay.
So, but like you say, the interpretation is up to the listener, especially on Blood on the Sun. Blood on the Sun is, I wrote it, again, back to Glen Buxton reference. Glenn collected TV guides, the little booklet that told you what was on TV in the old days. And I went through and I marked all of these movie titles that I liked. And then I went back and I put them in order. And Blood on the Sun, kind of in the spirit of Whiter Shade of Pale. Those lyrics make different sense to whoever listens to it. And this is like that. But the entire song is movie titles strung together.
That's amazing. It just goes to show there really is no formula, right? I mean, where songs come from. I mean, some people may have a system, but they could really come from anywhere.
Well, there are formulas, and that's what you learn. You learn your craft because you can't always rely on this inspiration hitting you. Like certain songs on this album, "Blood on the Sun" is one of them, and "School's Out" was one of them. It's almost like a gift from the creative gods, but in between those, you need to know how to write a song, even though the inspiration isn't what hit you first, So I think that music varies a lot. But if you only do formulas, and there are people I think that do that and do it well, that's not fun. The fun is when this creative idea strikes everybody, especially in a collaborative band like we are. Everybody has a million ideas at all times. And Bob Ezrin is the guy that's in charge of letting us sort through those ideas together and then saying, wait a minute, okay, we're taking too much time here. Let's do that and let's move forward. And that's what a producer does. But meanwhile, we're all standing. Alice is right to my left, Neil's to my right, Michael's right in front of me, and Bob's in the control room, just like all those classic albums were done. Yeah,
you totally did it old school right there in the studio.
totally
All
old school. And
that's awesome.
that's why it sounds like that. It's that collaborative, creative energy is so spontaneous and it feels live.
Yeah, and you hear it right off. I
Yeah.
mean, from the very first song, it's a very organic groove going
Yes,
on.
it is.
And
Yeah.
it's like I said, Alice is singing different, and it's got. I don't know if you guys or Bob Ezrin was going for it, but it has a similar kind of tone, that 70s tone, than those first few albums, like a very analog sound.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's just because we're all in the studio together for one thing. It's just the way we write and the way we sound as well. But then we have the advantage of today's technology, and we know Bob Ezrin's going to make it sound good. But the other difference is, Blood on the Sun had all of these sound effects on my demo. And as we got closer and closer to the mix, I kept saying, Bob, when are we going to put on these sound effects in this production? And he said, Dennis, if we put on all of that, do all this production number on it, people are going to talk about the production. If we don't do that, people are going to be talking about how the band plays. And he was right. I agree with that.
Wow. Well, it's a great album, and it really does sound like you just picked up where you guys left off. And it's out now, The Revenge of Alice Cooper. Dennis Dunaway, thank you so much for taking the time. It's good to hear you guys back in motion. I hope maybe hopefully you guys may play a gig in the New England area, but thank you very
I
much
hope
for
so,
joining me.
Mike. I hope so. I love New England.
Well, thanks a lot, Dennis. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for your
All right.
time.
All right. We're back, baby.